Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are very much chasing rabbits over here. We are playing a rabbit tribal deck as submitted by a donor. This is a list I think that 5-0'd a league or won a tournament somewhere in paper. And it's got a lot of weird stuff going on in here and it's pretty cool, running lots of these new rabbit creatures to do various things. So we've got this Jack Rabbit that make us larger. We have this Warren Warleader, which can then make a small rabbit. And we have this Mother of Runes to make sure our opponent's removal doesn't do anything at all. And yes, I'm referencing Jefferson Airplane quite a bit in this video, because I love them. Anyway, so we're in a tribal deck here. So we're going to be putting our Cavern of Souls on Rabbit. This is a 2-mana 2/3, which is pretty good as Lords go. So this is going to be pumping all of our rabbits. And whenever we have a rabbit enter the battlefield, we get ourselves a scry. So one of the rabbits we're going to be playing is a 3-mana 3/3. Again, a pretty reasonable rate. When this or another rabbit you control enters, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And then we can draw a card if it's the second time this ability is resolved. So if we put 2 rabbits in, we get a card draw out of it. Then we have Warren Warleader. So this is a 4-mana 4/4. Again, a pretty reasonable rate. When it attacks, we either pump our team who are attacking, or we get a 1/1 rabbit. So this would be a rabbit that could trigger our card draw engine here, as well as just making more damage, and that's pretty cool. And this has Offspring, so if we ever pay the Offspring cost for this, it's going to mean that we get 2 rabbits coming in, and we're all good. Then we have the Jacked Rabbit. This is a X and 1/2 in terms of its power. So if we're paying this for like 4 mana, it's going to be like a 3/4, which is fine. But the fact is, it makes a bunch of rabbits when it attacks. So we are an Ancient 2 deck, and we do even have one City of Traitors, so we can really power out some big rabbit-y type shenanigans. We're surrounding this with like a bunch of good cards, right? We've got Chrome Mox because we're like a Rabbit Stompy deck, so we're going to be trying to accelerate these out. We've got a Guide of Souls and Mother of Runes, just as some interesting things to do. The Guide of Souls can generate us a bunch of energy because we're making creatures, then we can start jumping stuff, and that gives us the evasion that our creatures are generally lacking. Mother of Runes lets us push through blockers. Mother of Runes, not great in the Eldrazi world, so I can understand why there's only 2 copies here. A couple of copies of the One Ring because we're a Stompy deck, we're going to have the mana to cast this. This card is great. It can swing races, it can draw us all the cards we need. Just a jolly good time. We have a Containment Priest. This is going to stop some of the nonsense in the format. Things like the Reanimated deck, we could just shut that down. This is more like just having a couple of pre-boarded cards that we can then go up on in the post-board games. And we've got Solitude and Plows are just a nice little suite of removal spells. Disruptor Flute, again, this is just like a pre-board card that is always going to find targets. How useful those targets are will depend on the matchup. But, you know, it's a fine card. It's a sideboard card that is main deckable, is how I like to see this one. And in our mana base, we've got the Eiganjo and the Karakas. Then we just got a whole bunch of planes, which I love to see, and some Wastelands to attack our opponent's mana. It kind of reminds me of what I call the Perez-style white deck, which is like the white creature decks with the Ancient Tombs. They normally tend to be playing things like initiative creatures and Thalias. So this is a kind of different spin on it, but it's got elements of it that remind me of that sort of thing. Sideboard-wise, we need some help against combos, so we've got some Deafening Silence and some Mindbreak Traps. We've also got the Archon of Emeria, so we can really layer all these things on. More removal for all these scary creatures, and some Graveyard Hate, and then Graveyard/Green Sun Zenith Hate right there. And that's the list. Pretty excited to play some White Rabbit, and let's just see if I'm high on the deck by the time the video is over. Let's go. We're on the play, which is exactly where we want to be with our aggro deck. What does this hand actually do for us? Kind of an awkward one, isn't it? We can turn 1 make a 3/3, turn 2 make a 4/4, lose our land, then what? It's a little sketch. I think we probably need to get something a little bit earlier on the curve, or if this was an Ancient Tomb, I would snap this off. I feel very, very vulnerable. So what would we be doing? We could go City of Traitors, Chrome Mox, imprint the Warleader, play the Host, then we get to untap, play this Witch Enchanter, and then play the Warleader. This is 7 power on turn 2 is fine, isn't it? I guess. This is also whenever you attack, not whenever this creature attacks. Go on then. We came here to make rabbits. Alright, Chrome Mox. Alright, our opponent's just F6 to our turn. Let's make a large rabbit. 3/3 is pretty big for a rabbit, to be fair. So we'll get to draw a card if this Warleader resolves, right? Because this will come into play. We'll attack, we'll get a rabbit, and then we'll get another card draw off of it from the Harvestrite Host trigger. So we're going to be attacking for a decent chunk. Mishra's Bauble, we'll be looking at a Mishra's Bauble combo deck or a tempo deck. Probably tempo, but we'll see. Netherglyph. Alright, that is going to be smaller than what we're working with over here. We do really want our spell to resolve. Goodbye, City of Traitors. We are exposed to a Daze. But I think that's better than just trying to Mother of Runes our way through this one. We did have a daze. That is unfortunate. Because if we try and Mother of Runes our way through this, our opponent has a Wasteland. That's just lights out. This way we've kind of pushed the game back a little bit, and our opponent can choose whether they're Wastelanding us now or... Okay, they want to go for the Wasteland. So they would have had the Wasteland there if we went for the Mother of Runes line. And we would have been in a similar position. Containment Priest. I don't hate that one. Alright, we'll jam with the host. So if we get the Mother of Runes down, it's active quicker. But I just want to put damage on the board. Like, we are racing to the finish line, trying to beat our opponent down as best we can. Yep, we're just going to be trading blows. They attack for 3, we attack for 5. That's an okay trade. Let's see what our opponent has to follow up. We know they've got a land in hand, because they bounced on Underground Sea earlier. They're going for another Wasteland. Alright, we're doing this, are we? Let's bash. I think the Mother of Runes here becomes more important, because forcing through the last few pieces of damage are really key. And this also means our opponent might be inclined to use a removal spell on our Mother of Runes. But our opponent doesn't get to block effectively anymore. Are we still coming in for attacks? Ah, I don't fancy it. Play this. What is the deal here? If we attack with 2 creatures, we force through damage, we protect our guy. It's just an annoying situation with the amount of mana our opponent has open. If they had no mana open, then we just protect and crash. But I think we have to play this a little bit cagier. We're not going to get some giant monster reanimated on us. I doubt they have monsters because of the Mishra's Bauble. They're probably just like a fair blue-black tempo deck. We'll see what our opponent's up to. A Psychic Frog. Okay, this gives us a window to just jab at our opponent. A Witch Enchanter. Not the most special, I think. I'm going to give our creature here protection from black. We're just forcing damage. That is the metric we can win this game on. We don't have any energy, so this doesn't do anything. We've got some nice 3-drops, so I'm going to play this as a land tapped. Okay, opponent. So they got, what, 6 cards in hand. So they can hit us for 7. So they can 2-turn us with this Psychic Frog, in theory. We've got a decent selection of draws that can turn the tide. Let's see what they want to do. Oh, we're getting to block, are we? Sure. I will throw this Guide of Souls under the bus. Sure, they discarded a Wasteland. It's fine, we just don't want our opponent drawing more cards here. That Guide of Souls is unlikely to do anything given our current situation. Okay, a Dragon's Rage Channeler. This is not delirious yet. A little bit worried about black removal spells, but that is the nature of this game sometimes. Right, I am down to clown with this little rabbit friend. Alright, we got a Force of Will out of it. So, our opponent's got 1 card in hand. So this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. So we have to block this Netherglyph. Opponent has a removal spell. That's obviously a problem for us. I guess we attack with the host here. And if our opponent blocks, we give it protection from red. Alright, they're gone for the block here. Like, we get blown out by a removal spell either way here. Petty Theft on our little bunny rabbit. So that's 1 less card to discard to Psychic Frog. That does change the math slightly. So 3, 4, 5, 6 damage. I'm surprised they wouldn't just take that and then use a Brazen Borrower to just kill us next turn. That's probably what I would have done considering we were hellbent. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have to send this in front of the Netherglyph, I think. Is it the Netherglyph or is it the Frog? They can have a card at this point. We're just preventing damage. Yeah, so if we Mother of Runes our little friend before we attack to try and push through damage, our opponent bounces it either way. So we're bad against removal spells. We have to see what our opponent's doing with their blocks there. Okay. Play this. They're going to play a Brazen Borrower at end of step, and we are very dead here. Let's just concede this one and go to the sideboard. So, what do I like here? I like removal spells. I'm not big into these Containment Priests we have. They're fine. They're bodies. They attack. How do I feel about Disruptor Flute? It does some things against some of what our opponent's up to. I don't think that's where I'm at. I can see an argument for bringing in the Unlicensed Hearse. We can chew through a chunk of our opponent's graveyard. Do I like that more than the Containment Priest? Probably. So quite removal heavy here. We can play a little bit of a control-y style game if we need to. Like, the Archon of Emeria is intriguing, but I don't think that's where I want to play this one. So let's just ball in with a pile of rabbits here. We don't have anything to pitch this Chrome Mox. So what we'll be doing, we're playing a Plains, turn 2, we're playing a Valley Questcaller. Not around days, most likely. Is this just too much mana? 4 mana. I guess we can use the Cavern to ignore the days. Yeah, okay. This is fine. Don't really like playing an aggressive deck where I don't have a 1-drop. That doesn't feel right. Let's put it to Delta. Okay, they don't have a 1-drop either, but they might just have a removal spell for our Questcaller. Rabbit, please. So they could just fail push this. Lightning Bolt if that's in their deck. Nothing. Ooh, that's good news for us. They didn't even get Surveil Land at end step, which is a surprise to me. Wasteland, they can take out our Cavern. That suggests they were probably trying to do some sort of Daze line. Okay. Right, let's attack with this Questcaller first. So we could do a Jacked Rabbit, paying 1, and creating some Daze bait for our opponent, where they fall behind tempo-wise. And it means they don't get to play a Psychic Frog next turn. I don't hate that. Let's see how this turn works out. Right, so this is Daze bait. We get a lot of scries if we start to attack with our Jacked Rabbit, though. So if they Daze this, they don't get to make Psychic Frog. Well, we're just in. We get Surveil. Do I want another Plains? We already have a white source here. I think this is going to be a no from me. Like, if they Wasteland, we're a ways off of what we want to do anyway, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, so the reason this is bigger is because we have a Lord pumping it. A Molten Collapse. Okay. So they didn't Daze our Jacked Rabbit. Was that because they're just saving the Daze for a better target? We could just keep making 4-mana Haymakers here. Not opposed to that. Jacked Rabbit resolved. Maybe this will too. Trying to resolve 4 drops against the Daze Wasteland deck feels like a precarious position to be in for sure. Right, we got Force of Will. That would hit wherever we played there. Alright, that means our One Ring is likely to resolve, and the One Ring is probably the best card in our deck. It's quite the Magic the Gathering card. Channeler, we're going to see some cantrips to follow this up. A little Froggy. Okay, 2 cards in our opponent's hand. Our opponent didn't have a Daze last turn, because they would have used it instead of a Force. I would quite like to get this One Ring on the go. If our opponent's drawn a Daze, that is awkward. But if they haven't, then we are looking a-okay here. Do I want this? Is the Guide of Souls worth it? It doesn't gain us any life back. Play this Chrome Mox here. I think we're going to imprint this Guide of Souls. I'm going to go to attacks. See what our opponent wants to do. This is we have a Swords to Plowshares attack and our opponent knows it. I think we have to be a little bit careful about our opponent having something like a Murktide Regent. Right, just another Channeler. I think we are going to plow end step here. Right, our opponent was F6 there. Ancient Tomb plus the One Ring is a lot of damage we can be taking from ourselves. You know what's really good with the One Ring? Another copy of the One Ring. So I think we play out our Wasteland here. Play out our little friend. We're not drawing a card this turn. Is Wasteland important to take our opponent off of a colour? I think so. Path to Exile. That is certainly a card that I'm excited to have access to. Attack. If they block and somehow manage to make the Dragon's Rage Channeler big enough, it at least trades in this situation. We've got a lot of damage. Our opponent could suddenly flip the script on us though and send 6 damage our way with the One Ring eating us. Now we can play another One Ring to start fogging again, but our opponent's had enough. Yep, we played our spells into our opponent's permission until something stuck. And the thing that stuck was game winning, so I think the sequencing was really key there. Like I sideboarded, I'm not going to make any changes here. Let's just ball in. The reason why the Unlicensed Hearse is better than the Faerie Macabre there is because the Unlicensed Hearse does multiple things, right? It's a threat as well as Graveyard Hate. And we don't really care about too much from their graveyard. You just want to keep them off Delirium, you know, maybe stop their Frog having flying, make Murktides more difficult, that sort of jam. Okay, we've got a curve here. We play a turn 1 Guide of Souls, and then we can play Questcaller into Jacked Rabbit. We can do that around Daze if we want to take the life for it. But if our opponent starts with an aggressive, like Dragon's Rage Channeler type card, then we might not have a choice playing into the Daze. I want to. Okay. A 2-3 now. Taking a look at our library, so they're going to know what we're drawing before we do. A Wasteland. I think we are on the getting something on the board plan. Alright, this is probably the weakest card in our hand. The fact that that's setting our opponent back on mana is fine. Now, this does grow their creature, so they're getting to do the classic Delver thing. They've assembled a 3-power guy to attack with on turn 2. But we can Jacked Rabbit or Valley Questcaller next turn. And we're just going to test our opponent's spells and then maybe stick the One Ring afterwards. If we get a Jacked Rabbit down first, then when we attack with the Valley Questcaller, we're doing way more damage. And I think this is going to come down to damage rather than the scries off of this, but we'll see. A Plow. I don't hate the Plow here. So we could Wasteland our opponent so there's no Dazes available. And we just Plow this. You got Force of Will? Might be worth protecting here. They do not. Alright, so we've kind of reset the game a little bit. We're ahead with the planes in play. Similar resources between us. If they don't play to the board, I am slightly tempted to Wasteland. Alright, they just played another big guy. Understood. Did you draw another plow? We did not draw another plow. I am going to play this to try and get the Jackrabbit up and running. We are exposing ourselves to a Daze here, but that's a Daze that doesn't hit our One Ring, which might be a really key play next turn. Right, it was Force of Will, which means there's no Daze in our opponent's hand. It means the One Ring is liable to stick. Now, we're going to have to tap an Ancient Tomb for it, and our Life Turtle is not an infinite resource. Wasteland, that's pretty savage. Yep. Just get the Questcaller in. I don't really want to chump block with this, but we might have to in the near future. The One Ring looks worse and worse. Alright, we don't even get the opportunity to do that. We're just getting smashed up. Right, at least that Wasteland doesn't interact with us. Opponent's got one card in hand. If we can find a Plow here, we can stabilize. An Unlicensed Hearse. I don't hate it. Play this Wasteland. I'm going to play this Hearse. And then I want to take out... I don't know if I want to take that out. There's a problem. We can maybe stop our opponent from drawing cards. Like, how much? We can get rid of artifacts quite easily. There's one sorcery in there. Couple of instants. 3 instants. And lots of land. So we shrink this. We take 3. Next turn we are unlikely to... we can shrink with the Ponder as well, I guess. So then we take 2. What are we doing? Alright, I'm going to go for this Wasteland. It might be ill-advised. I'm not super happy about that. But if our opponent can't deploy anything, we've got loads of removal in our deck, right? We've got Paths, we've got Plows, we've got Solitude that we can't cast right now, of course. But that's still a decent chunk of things. And we can obviously draw a creature and just stick it in front of the Netherglyph and say, hope this is good enough to keep us alive for another turn while we shrink their graveyard. So I'm going to tap the Netherglyph. We're not blocking because we don't have any creatures. So we get rid of Mishra's Bauble and Mishra's Bauble. I'll shrink the Netherglyph to a 3-power guy. Next turn we can shrink it to a 2-power guy. So we're not dead next turn. A Witch Enchanter. If we play this, it's probably just going to get killed by our opponent's Wasteland. Am I okay with that exchange? Not really. If we play this and we draw any other land, then we can play it as a chump blocker. So I think that's the plan here. If our opponent somehow manages to play multiple sorceries, seems unlikely given they have nothing going on, but okay. So we get rid of the one sorcery that's in there, and we'll start working on the instants. We're on 1. This One Ring is just a fog, but that might be good enough. Mother of Runes. That's not really the one we're after, was it? Does chump block. So are we playing this as a tap land to try and get our opponent's Wasteland out from underneath them? Or are we hoping to draw any land and play this as a card? If we draw any land, we're just casting the One Ring anyway. Is that true? A 2-2 on this board might be enough. Okay, I don't think we're playing the Witch Enchanter here as a land. We do have to send our poor little mother under the bus. Another Wasteland. Let's eat some more cards. We'll take out these 2 instants. Path to Exile. Our opponent has 3 cards in hand. I think we're playing it on our opponent's turn so we can play around Force of Negation. So in their upkeep, we're going to path this. This does give our opponent potentially a basic land, which might unlock their hand. They don't have a basic. That's beautiful news. Right, let's start cracking through their lands. Let's see if you want to hit our Witch Blessed Meadow. Opponent's got a lot of cards in hand now, so any land is going to completely open up what they can do. We've got a Fog with the One Ring. We've got a creature with Witch Enchanter. We don't have a creature with Witch Enchanter anymore. Get rid of a couple of lands from their graveyard. A Chrome Mox. What does that actually do for us here? We could play the One Ring and Fog for a turn, but we can't draw any cards with it. It doesn't really achieve anything for us. I think this is a case of passing the turn because if we find something else to put under the Chrome Mox, maybe we cast a Witch Enchanter and we at least have something on board. Game's got weird. Alright, our opponent is out of cards in their graveyard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We can 2-shot our opponent with this Unlicensed Hearse. I'm going to play this on human. Let's crew this. Alright. We need our opponent to not kill us this turn, and then we can just crew the Hearse and get them in. It feels like the turn we get lightning bolted. Solitude. It's not a thing we get to do anything with. Do I want to cast this One Ring? Does that make any difference here? Probably not. If they have an instant, it goes to our face anyway, and we die. Can we get in there with a big hearse? Our opponent's been slow rolling a lightning bolt. Okay, they have a petty theft. Replay the hearse and carry on with our life. If we can put this Solitude into play, that's going to be pretty big news. We'd like to Wasteland our Cavern of Souls, sure. We'll start eating our own graveyard because nothing in our graveyard matters. So we'll just take their one card out first. That is a weird choice here. I think I'm just going to attack and hold up the Solitude. Right, we play into days by trying to do anything with this Warleader. Whatever. We can't deploy... I think we attack with the Witch here. I'm very nervous about deploying anything else here, because I want to have access to this Solitude around days. So let's try this Questcaller. Let's try this Chrome Mox. We'll imprint this Warleader. Right, so we can play around some amount of permission here. We have lethal on board with the hearse. This, okay, yeah, we shouldn't have played out this this Warleader thing because we can't actually Solitude and pitch it yet. We're trying to hardcast and we could wait till the next turn to do that. But we somehow got the match. That was a tight one. Our last little turn was not great from us, but we could. I don't believe our opponent's running lightning bolts because you don't see them anymore. But we kind of played into a situation where that might have been able to get us. Okay, let's go to round 2. This looks like the sort of hand we're probably supposed to keep, doesn't it? Guide of Souls into a thing that makes lots of bodies. We'd like to find a kind of irrelevant white card to stick in this Chrome Mox. Snow-covered plains. I wouldn't describe Solitude as a relevant white card. Alright, let's make the Guide of Souls. So this is going to snowball out with quite a decent chunk of energy if we can put this Warleader into play next turn. Alright. That was worth a source to Plowshares for our opponent. Let's hope we draw an inconsequential white card. Stoneforge Mystic. Okay. So now the Chrome Mox and the Solitude are both pulling at our resources in a way that I don't like. Umezawa's Jite. Give us an irrelevant white card. I wouldn't say that's irrelevant, but I like it. So we will evoke this, pitching... I'll pitch the Warleader. We can play a Rabbit, and then next turn, find a white card. We can then imprint the Chrome Mox and play the Warleader, and that gets us a card draw, which undoes some of this pitching we've been doing. And if we don't draw a white card and we draw a land, we can do the Warleader without having to pitch. And if not, we still have this Disruptor Flute we can use unless we get Wastelanded. We've seen an Umezawa's Jite from our opponent. We know they're a Yori on deck. It's quite likely to be full-on taxes. Right, there's the Wasteland that we were hoping wouldn't happen. All right. They're just playing a Recruiter. Let's see what they find with it. A Solitude. Not a great lover of the old Solitude right there for us. The One Ring. Pretty hard to argue against putting the One Ring into play, isn't it? Right, let's attack and see if we get anything done over here. Especially when we've got this Wasteland threatening us in quite a scary fashion. Chrome Mox. Not looking forward to getting this flickered by a Flicker Wisp at some point. But that is the price we pay for greatness. So they won't be able to deal combat damage to us if they just play the Jite and equip. Let's just play this land tapped. Right, so they can't play and equip the Jite and get any value out of it. And if they play the Jite, then we put the Disruptor Flute on it and then it doesn't do anything. And in theory, this One Ring should just snowball this game out of control because that's what the card does. Now, they do have actual answers for it in the form of Skyclave Apparition, whereas a lot of decks just can't answer it once it's in play. But if we can convert this into a 3 cards for 4 mana in our white deck, that's really solid. And every turn after that is just backbreaking for our opponent. Flicker Wisp. What are we losing? Okay, they just flicker in their Recruiter. So they're probably going to go and get themselves the Skyclave that we spoke about. Flicker Wisp, kind of an annoying size considering we have a 3/3. So in comes a Recruiter. Our opponent's deck should be favoured here because it's doing similar things to what we're doing, but it's kind of going bigger and having more like card advantage rather than just trying to stomp people like we're doing. Okay, deck. A Jacked Rabbit. Let's draw some cards. We could make a massive Jacked Rabbit. We could fire off a Solitude. I think our opponent is casting Skyclave next turn. So if we just play this Solitude and just continue the beats. So no to this Flicker Wisp. Crash in for 3. Keep our creature alive. Yes, we could have made a massive Jacked Rabbit. Maybe that's better. But I think our opponent pivots quite differently, if that's the case. We're pretty close to just kicking this with Ravenous as well. Right, so here's a Skyclave. They get rid of the One Ring. We have pretty favourable attacks here. I don't hate trading this Solitude for a Skyclave because we end up with a 4/4 out of it. Now, here's a 4/4 that's very easily disrupted via things like Flicker Wisp. Some kind of little guy. I do want to put this Disruptor Flute as into play soon. We could do a Jackrabbit for 2. Is that worth much to us here? Jackrabbit for 2 seems good. And the next turn we get to draw 2 cards. I think we're just going to make the Solitude bigger so we gain more life. I'm expecting the Solitude to die here. I think they'll trade the Skyclave for it. But that's okay. I'm going in with my eyes wide open for this one. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to get the 4/4 out of this. We're choosing 1 life over 1 damage because we have an Ancient Tomb in play. I can certainly see it being right to get that extra 1 damage in. Okay, Rishdam Port. So our opponent could do something like Jitte, Equip, and that can be pretty scary for us. But we have the Disruptor Flute. Loran of the Third Path. It's going to blow up our Chrome Mox, is it? Okay. I think we are going to put in this Disruptor Flute. Not a big fan of this Loran of the Third Path. Alright, we've got Solitude pitching a Thalia. So we're probably losing our Jackrabbit here. Poor little Jackrabbit. But we've still got like a decent chunk of damage, and if our opponent's hoping this Jitte does the work for them, they're going to be sorely disappointed. They will know not to cast it, but I just want to make sure that we get ahead of it here. So I think we want to play this one first. This turn is going to be sweet. Pump our little host, and let's draw some cards. So we put 2 pumps on the illusion here, and we're going to draw 2 cards out of it. Another guy, and a Wasteland. Alright, let's send the team. This is 12 damage. That's so much damage. They could trade. They can't trade anything here, actually, can they? They just got to go under the bus. Oh, we do hit very hard here. I'm going to play this Wasteland. I don't know if I'm firing this off now or not. We can take out their port. Now we don't have to worry about the Karakas. I don't mind taking out this port. We've got so much damage here. Because now using this Wasteland becomes even more precarious for them. They can't Jitte us. They can't hard cast a Solitude this turn. Which is the sort of thing that might be able to get them back in. You know, they could kill our Questcaller and then block our 3/3 host guy. Get a good trade off there. Maybe we've... yay! We got over the hump there. Excellent. So I'm going to put some more removal in my deck. I'm kind of tempted to do some Containment Priest and maybe catch our opponent sleeping. That's an option we can do. Is it a good or correct option? I don't know. The One Ring looks excellent. Disruptor Flute does look good here because we can stop some spooky equipments. Maybe it's just actually the Containment Priest comes out and we just play 2 plows. That probably is the correct way to approach this one, isn't it? Like, yeah, we can maybe get some juice out of our opponent blinking their things, and we, you know, they do their whole Yorion thing, remove all their stuff, and then we just cheese them with this Containment Priest. But I'd rather just have removal so I don't have anything good in the first place. I think that's a better stand to take. It should also be noted our opponent's playing the 81 card special. Don't like double Chrome Mox. Don't like Chrome Mox being our only white source. I'm going to mulligan this one. Okay, this seems fine. We're going to get rid of this Chrome Mox. We've got 2 removal spells. We got some threats. Our threats aren't incredible by any stretch of the imagination. But if we find a Soul Land, all of a sudden, they start looking alright. I'm going to play out this Plains. We want this Witch Enchanter as a spell if possible, because our opponent's got lots of spooky artifacts we would like to blow up. And with our Jitte being one of them. There's a Rishdam Port. Are we settling into some port action? No. We are going for some Stoneforge action. We'll let them tutor and then we'll blow it up. We're going for the Mizawa's Jitte again. Or is this a Cauldra? A Badaskar. That is the sort of thing that I'm hoping to blow up with a Witch Enchanter later on in the game. Make them pay the full price for it. Okay. Would I like a Jackrabbit right now with no additional text on it? How many 2-power guys do they have that I need to be worried about? Alright, we're going to play as Jackrabbit and start getting on board. Makes a 1/1 when it attacks. That's not great, but if we find a Lord, then all of a sudden it's making 2s, and those are 2/2s, and that's already pretty good. But getting on board ahead of our opponent's port means that our opponent can't be porting us down because they're just going to be losing because we're going to have growing clock every turn. Okay, Recruiter of the Guard. This is something we can attack into, and that's fine. Love to find a Lord here. I can just block the 1/1 we have, so we'll force 1 damage through that way. We'd love to find an Ancient Tomb here, so we can jam this Warleader. And that gives us a couple of 2/2 attackers, 2-power attackers. Skyclave Apparition. Understood. Ancient Tomb. Okay. I think this is worth doing here. Which is when you attack. This pause makes me think our opponent might have a Solitude. Alright, Lion Slash is going. You can take out the Warleader or you can take out the Jackrabbit. I'm going to take out the Warleader. Fair enough. So Jackrabbit can attack. They can trade their guy for a 1-1 if they need. Oh, it's not tapped and attacking, is it? It just creates it. Okay. It's the other guy, the 4-4, that makes them tapped and attacking. Apologies. Can't say I've had many reps with playing rabbits. Skyclave Apparition. Goodbye, Jackrabbit. So our game plan is now our opponent taps out for the Batterskull, we blow up the Batterskull. We're flooding out a little bit here, but that's not the end of the world when our opponent has so much mana down in their deck in general. But we really need our opponent to just hardcast this Batterskull. Which, why wouldn't you do that in an aggro matchup, right? I would trade this rabbit off for a Recruiter. I'm not going to save 2 damage when we're at 22. A Flicker Wisp. Okay, I hate it, but here we are. We're going to target the Recruiter. I don't want our opponent to get another card, so I think we're going to path this. Not what I wanted to do. But now they're going to have the mana to Batterskull for next turn. We do get to poke with our 1-1 here. We can get a 2-2 back by killing this Skyclave. But maybe saving our removal for an impending Yorion might be useful. They're going to bash us for a bunch here, I reckon. Not hardcasting the Batterskull. Don't like that very much. Don't like that very much at all. Alright. I think we're going to try and just keep some pressure going. Let's go to the Skyclave. That gets us a 2-2. So now we can crash for 6. Our opponent can port us down if they wish. And they do. If all they're doing here is porting, that's not the end of it. They didn't know that they were going to be facing down this much pressure. Yes, please. Our opponent is holding up a 1 white source. If they've got a plow, I'd rather get through this extra damage rather than gain this extra life here. Gaining 3 life is already kind of a big deal here. Would love to have 4 life here. But we're putting our opponent under pressure. They're going to have to tap out for this Batterskull at some point. And that's when we're going to get him. Do it. Play that Batterskull. We've been playing around this for 5 turns. It's time. There it is. Here it comes. Yes. Oh no, a Batterskull. What am I going to do? I'm going to enjoy this turn. Get in there. Let's blow up this artifact. This is coming in. This is coming in. I think I'm okay just sending damage. You can take out our Harvester or our Solitude. Alright, they're going for the Solitude. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If they play a Cauldron, that's bad news for us. But if we strip out... They've got plenty of white mana. We just take out one of the ports here. Wrath of the Skies? What is this? I was not expecting that out of the creature-heavy deck with all the permanents it sticks into play. Well, well, well. We've got a game and our opponent is massively ahead now. They've also got the Karakas. They can do Yorion loops. Yeah, I think they've just about smashed us up. Oh, that's not a bad one though, is it? Reach for the Jackrabbit. Hope our opponent doesn't have any removal. This rabbit is pretty jacked. It was 1 away from being a thing that drew us a card. But it's going to make 5 power of guys every turn if they don't remove it. And it can attack into Yorion here. Recruiter of the Guard. Okay, they're going to go and get a Skyclave Apparition. They're going to kill our guy. Next turn, they're going to put Yorion to hand. The turn after, they're going to play Yorion and have Karakas bounce. And we're going to lose the game. There's a Skyclave. Goodbye. Ah, little friend here. Okay. Alright, it's time to get some offspring going. It's quite a cute little one, isn't it? Little rabbit note. So we attack, we make a guy, then all of our guys get +1/+1. Another Recruiter. Oh, just stop it, opponent. Absolutely grinding us into the dirt. Alright. Do they feel the need to Solitude now? Okay, they had a Loran to pitch anyway. Right, goodbye, Warleader. Now our little Warleader doesn't feel very strong. And there's a Nomad to hand. Sure. No attacks? There's a whole bunch of different things they could choose to attack with here. As long as they leave back 2 power. Right, they're playing it safe. Let's get the Wandering going. So we can tap our Ancient Tomb without taking damage. Unlikely to be a thing that matters this turn. We'll see. That is a good card. The problem with that card is our opponent gets to play Yorion this turn. We are 1 turn too slow. Otherwise, we could like smash out one of the things they're trying to Yorion in. There it is. So they blink the 2 Recruiters. Oh, they're blinking everything. That's weird because they're Skyclave. Oh, the Skyclave takes out the One Ring, doesn't it? Yes, that makes perfect sense. Sorry. Forgot my own One Ring for a second. I'm just not used to having nice things. Our opponent has been taking them away from us in the fiercest of fashions. It should be pretty elementary for our opponent to win here. But we are ahead on clock. And they are only on 5. So maybe there's some way we pull this off. Right, they've got a Solitude and a Flicker-Wisp. Yep, those are all very good and irritating things. If we play this Valley Questcaller, we don't get to play the Solitude, which we need to do. We need our opponent to activate their Karakas. There is no incentive for our opponent to activate their Karakas. Yep, Stoneforge Mystic, that's terrible for us. Lots of things are terrible for us. And they all seem to be happening at once. When was ours Jitte? They're not going to cast and equip because they're just going to hold it with Karakas and just play this game safely. What sort of draw is actually going to help us here? We can just get rid of that Skyclave. We're just not beating this, are we? This engine is just too strong. Let's go to game 3 and not waste our time. We could be doing some Containment Priest stuff here, but again, I just don't think it works that much here. We're just better off submitting as we are. We're on the play, and we were like 1 turn away that game several times. So maybe being on the play is just the impetus we need to get over the edge. Turn 1, Plains. Turn 2, 3/3 guy. Then what? We don't have that many 1-drops at the end of the day. Okay, I'll keep this. Our opponent's going to be messing with our mana a fair bit. Witch Enchanter can get rid of some of their scarier draws, like the Aether Vial, just adding them ridiculous amounts of mana over the course of the game. There's Aether Vial. Can't kill that this turn. We don't have to kill it this turn. Right, let's play a little friend. Our opponent's taking out their Vial. They're going to start porting us. No, they would like to play a Spirit of the Labyrinth. That is a thing that Witch Enchanter kills. Is that more important to me than killing our opponent's Aether Vial? I think it probably ends up being more important. Do I want to put this Mother Runes into play? Or do I want to use this to allow us to Wasteland our opponent off of Rishdam Port? That leaves us with like no mana left. I want to keep the pressure on. We don't win this game if it goes long, so we're going to use this to blow up our opponent's permanent. We're going to attack here. Next time we can play a Mother of Runes and try and use that to force through damage. I am worried about Aether Vial, I won't lie. That is something that is giving me some pause for thought. But if we don't get rid of that Spirit, we're probably not attacking. And if we're not attacking, our opponent just gets to make land drops and eventually win the game. Alright, we're probably getting ported. Be my guest. Alright, we're going to tax. Got a spooky 2-drop. Alright, Mother of Runes. Get in there, do some work. Wasteland, no Rishdam Port for you. You're basically living off of your Aether Vial here. Wouldn't mind having some kind of Disruptor Flute for this Aether Vial, perhaps. They're on 3, so they can put in some of their big hits now. Right, this is going to be a Recruiter straight up. Skyclave. We're going to take the bigger creature whilst Mother of Runes isn't able to do anything. Do I want to just plow this and start swinging? I think we give our opponent the opportunity to just let this go for free. We'll play our Wasteland. Our opponent gets like 1 card a turn for the most part. But that 1 card a turn might be better because their hand is just full of spells because they haven't been playing lands. Another Aether Vial. I don't care too much about that one. So I could try and plow this Skyclave, but if they've got a Flicker-Wisp, that goes very poorly for us. So we're just going to make the same play we made last turn, I think. Force a little bit more damage through. Play our Karakas. Maybe this bounces something useful. In comes Enchanter. I want to give my creature pro-white. They're going to flicker this. Right, they're going to put something in off the Aether Vial. Is it a Flicker-Wisp? It is a Flicker-Wisp. They're going to target their Skyclave. This is why we didn't play the plow earlier. Now we plow this here. So now we get our 3/3. They don't get to take another one of our creatures. And then we kind of have a nice looking board. We're shields down with our Mother for a turn. But it's always going to be weird when we're doing Mother stuff because it's going to have to be weird timings due to the Aether Vial because all the creatures have flash basically in this matchup. So we're going to end up being a bit odd with how and when we activate our Mother of Runes. So they're always going to have windows. But we're trying to use it reactively for the most part. Right, there's a Wasteland from our opponent. Alright, a Spirit of the Labyrinth. We are probably going to Wasteland their Wasteland. The Spirit is definitely irritating. Just another body that's an annoying size. Am I okay trading the Witch Enchanter? I guess we'll find out shortly. Solitude, that's pretty big news, isn't it? They'll definitely trade for the illusion token, won't they? With some sort of flicker wisp. Attack with both of these. Let's see what play our opponent makes here. Oh wow, they're just letting the full damage through. That is a big shocker to me. What's coming out of this vial? Nothing came out of the vial at all. This game feels like it's balanced on a knife edge. We are sat here with a Solitude, which is a big card in the matchup. How much can we leverage that when our opponent clearly has a 3-drop that they're waiting to be reactive with? Most likely a Flicker Wisp. Alright, they've just off of it. Okay, yeah. Tough, but somehow we managed to wriggle through. I was not sure we were going to win that one, but I will take it. Let's go to round 3. Oh, I wish I had a white card instead of this Chrome Mox. Make a Jackrabbit as a 2-3. Next turn, make the Questcaller. That'd be a really sick and powerful start. But as it stands, I don't like this start. I think we need something... Jeez. We can't keep that. The mana is abysmal. Okay. 2 of these cards got to go back. So unfair. Why can't we just keep them all? Okay, so we're going to go Karakas into Guide of Souls. We probably throw back 1 Ancient Tomb, and it probably has to be the Wasteland. I don't want to throw away this Ancient Tomb because that gives us a really nice curve into of Guide of Souls into Jackrabbit. And I don't want to throw away our second white source in case our first one gets hit. So I think these are the ones we're getting rid of. Let's play a little Guide of Souls. And then we get to make a 2-3. I'll be honest, I haven't particularly been impressed by Jackrabbit. I'm not sure many of the creatures that we're playing are actually doing a great deal. They're just kind of like interchangeable creatures. Oh, our opponent not playing anything. Oh, I don't like that very much. That is suspicious town right there. Let's make a very buff rabbit indeed. Crack in for 1. Next turn we can get enough energy to increase our clock. If our opponent is on some terrifying combo deck, then we need to just pressure our opponent. So probably play the Witch Enchanter as a land, play the other Witch Enchanter as a creature. Elvish Spirit Guide. We're going to see a Wild Cantor. So this is some kind of Oops or Spell style deck, or Necro, or Charbelcher, Valakut. Is that the... Yeah, okay, yeah. Our opponent is playing Necro. Understood. So our life total doesn't matter in this matchup. So this gets us an energy, and then we attack like this. And we have to stack the triggers correctly. So this goes on the bottom, Jackrabbit goes on top, we make a guy, we make an energy, we jump our Jackrabbit, and next turn Jackrabbit gets to make loads of guys. Alright, this seems like we're cooking with something. I have a feeling our opponent is just going to combo us next turn though. Now, the more damage we put on our opponent, the less cards they have to draw with the Necro Dominance. And the more chance we have of actually being able to have our opponent fizzle. Like a key way in which we win this game pre-board. I think if we connect one more time, our opponent won't have enough life to Necro successfully. Born Upon a Wind. Okay. This is just as a cantrip to try and get somewhere. Gemstone Mine. Was that the piece they were looking for? Maybe it was. I think we're going to see Manamorphose here. Manamorphose. Yep, our opponent is digging for the piece here. I'm not sure why they didn't just mulligan harder. Because this deck can reliably mulligan to a turn 1 win with not very many cards. Alright, we got paid out there by our opponent's deck not really working. That is excellent news for us because I'm going to board in some Deafening Silence. I'm going to board in some Archon of Cruelty. I'm going to board in some Mindbreak Traps. Say goodbye to Solitude. Say goodbye to Swords to Plowshares. And that's a very clean 7. Disruptor Flute does stuff here. These creatures turn sideways. That's good enough for me. Yeah, that looks like it's quite a well-mapped sideboard where you just take those things out, stick those in, and carry on with your life. I don't hate the Mother of Runes as a way of protecting our Archon of not Cruelty. What's it called? Alright, we have a thing so we don't die on turn 1 here. Or we might not die on turn 1. It's certainly possible we die on turn 1. Summoner's Pact. Okay, that's spell number 1. So now we're going to see a Cabal Ritual, hopefully. It's for spell number 2. There it is. Spell number 3 is the Necrodominance. We counter this. This could just be the game. Pact of Negation. Okay. So now our opponent just gets to rifle through everything they're doing. 20 cards is a lot. Well, they get 19 because they can't pay their whole thing, but they'll have 21 cards total. Like they're allowed to pay 20 life, but it will kill them. A really horrible angle shooting you can do is just say, oh, you pay 20 life and draw 20 cards? They go, yes. And then you say, oh, we lose. Alright, so our opponent's going to pitch a load of Spirit Guides, and then they're going to cast a Mana Morphose to get blue mana, cast Born Upon a Wind, and then play out a load of like 0-drop artifact mana, things like Chrome Mox, things like Lotus Petal, and then they can play any rituals they have. And then if they don't have the right amount of stuff, then they can Valley Awakening to get rid of the cards that aren't working for them. That's what we're seeing here. So the Valley Awakening makes this deck a lot more reliable. But we did the thing we could, right? We had a turn 0 piece of interaction. Our opponent had the counterspell for it. We spent a while working out how many cards to throw away with that Valley Awakening. Right, I'm just going to cut this video to the next time something interesting happens. Alright, so our opponent is casting... They play a bunch of rituals and stuff. They cast Beseech the Mirror. They're going to put Tendrils of Agony on the stack. And that'll do us. That's many, many damages. I'm happy with our sideboarding here. Let's just submit and go again. The One Ring can buy us a turn, so it's not the end of the world. It can buy us a turn and draw us into some more disruption for what our opponent's doing. They don't really have a backup plan either, so if we can stop their main plan, that's all we need to do. Is just the Mindbreak Trap enough? It certainly wasn't last time. How am I going to shuffle away a Mindbreak Trap? Like, our hand doesn't win the game very fast anyway. I think we could do better. Would love... this isn't good enough. Oh dear, oh dear. We made a horrible error here. So there's a bunch of things we can do here. Alright, we could always just mulligan to Oblivion. Okay, we have successfully mulliganed to Oblivion here. We're not obviously going to mulligan to one card. So we keep 2 cards here. What would I like? We're going to keep the Plains. So we're probably going to get rid of some 4-drops. And get rid of 3-drop. I think we'll probably just keep the Ancient Tomb. So the things I was looking for was Plains and Deafening Silence. Or Disruptor Flute plus Ancient Tomb. Those were the 2 sort of hands we were looking for. We did not come across the goods. Our opponent kept 7, so they're probably going to win. So the Mindbreak Trap will not beat our opponent on a 7-card hand most of the time. So I don't regret throwing that away. Now, we didn't know how many cards our opponent was going to have, but we're just not beating a 7-card hand of Necro with our deck, unless we have one of these permanents in play. So this Wild Cancer can let them filter into blue mana for Born Upon a Wind after they've cast their Necro Dominance. Cabal Ritual. This could be a Beseech the Mirror, sacrificing their Vault of Whispers to go and find the Necro Dominance. So maybe the Mindbreak Trap gets us there. But I think the majority of the time it doesn't. So now our opponent's going to play a bunch of stuff. Yep, so they're going to Summoners Pact all of the Spirit Guides out of their deck. And they're going to Wild Cantor away. How many cards they got? 18. So they can still fail. So we do have to let them play it out. So I'm just going to cut to whenever something interesting happens. So you don't have to sit through this. Alright, so Beseech the Mirror, getting rid of their Necro Dominance. So that is the game. We can be done with that one. Yeah, so maybe we keep the Mindbreak Trap, just the Mindbreak Trap, and that works out. But I think there's just so many situations where that doesn't work because of our opponent having some form of disruption. But maybe, you know, maybe we were swinging too high. I think the other pieces of disruption are better, and we had 4 of them to draw to. I don't know. This matchup feels horrible anyway, but I don't think this deck is very good. Like, it's very powerful at doing the thing it does, but it basically folds to a lot of decks in the format, and it sometimes falls to itself. But we're a mono-white deck. We're not supposed to win these matchups. Let's go to round 4. Our opening hand for round 4 is Guide of Souls and Mother of Runes into some other stuff. First creature we play here is certainly getting whacked. Against what is likely to be a removal-heavy deck, I think we play out the Guide of Souls, expecting a removal spell on this, so then we can get our Mother of Runes in. Oh, no, a Brainstorm. That is unexpected. Yeah, okay, they do have the removal spell, sure. They just want to Brainstorm as well. Alright, I think this is the turn we play the Mother of Runes. Hoping that we've baited out enough removal from our opponent that we can now have a little bubble of protection. Now we can see something like a Prismatic Ending, and then, sure, we just got nothing. This Source of Plowshares is potentially not going to be very useful. So we might be able to put that under our Chrome Mox and try this Warleader. A nice uncounterable rabbit friend. A Flage. How do I feel about Flage? Right, we're going to lose our Mother of Runes. Goodbye. I'm now a little bit reluctant to get rid of this Source of Plowshares. But we do still have the Solitude. We can be fine here. If I want an uncounterable Warren Warleader, we need to play this Cavern of Souls out, which means we have to pitch something to the Chrome Mox. I have already said that the Source of Plowshares is unlikely to be useful here. Alright. It's Rabbit season. Oh, I clicked Knight instead of Rabbit. Whoops. Okay. Well, we've thrown our opponent off the scent somewhat. Now there is an option to just not play anything that turn and try and play the kicked Warren Warleader. That's certainly a thing we could do, but I don't really want to fall behind what our opponent's up to over there. The window upon which we are operating is not the biggest, and oh look what happened there. It's not kicker, but it is kicker, let's be honest. Alright, let's go to attacks. Oh, we're attacking. We got 3 triggers here. So we want attacking creatures get +1/+1, and then we want to create some rabbits here. So we create the rabbits as the last trigger, so that's the one that resolves first. Alright. That's like half of our opponent's life total. Now, if they wrath us, they wrath us. That's sometimes the way the cookie crumbles. Right, there was no Terminus in their draw step. Is this going to be a Wrath of the Skies for 2? No, it's just going to be Flavor Flage. I don't know if this is good enough. Right, we lose our little friend. A Force of Will from our opponent could jam us up a bunch here. Another Cavern that we can name Elemental with would be good. It was not that thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Let's try and make a friend. This doesn't have lifelink itself. There's the Force of Will. So if we pump both of these by 2, then that's 12 damage. That's lethal. So we'd have to block here and trade their guy off. If we make a guy and then pump, so this will, and then they block this, they'll be taking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Whereas if we pump these by 2, they block here, they take 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it is better for us to just attack and pump with everything. This also stops our opponent from being able to attack with the Flage next turn. So now I'm going to wasteland our opponent off of white mana so that they are less likely to cast something like a Supreme Verdict. Come on, goofy little rabbits. A Ponder. So no Supreme Verdict, but they might be stacking up a Terminus. Nope, they just got nothing. Beautiful. We attack with a bunch of little guys, and it was okay. What do I like here? I like having more threats. Big fan of more threats existing. Not a big fan of the Disruptor Flute or the Plows here. Kind of into this Unlicensed Hearse. I'm just going to keep throwing threats until they stick. We'd like to have one more Plow over a Containment Priest. I don't think so. The Hearse is a threat as well that can be dodging Sorcery Speed removal whilst also making sure they don't just drop Flages right into our lap. Okay. And it says Chrome Mox imprinting. I think it's the Archon of Emeria here. Just make a Jacked Rabbit. And then we just play Warleader. And we stack our triggers. Actually, no, it doesn't matter which way we stack the triggers, does it? Because the Jacked Rabbit ones don't come into play tapped and attacking. They just come into play. What sort of removal spell are we going to see on our poor little rabbit? So, Prismatic Ending certainly nails it here. Yeah, that's what we're looking at. You can always tell what spell it is by how long it takes to cast. So I could try and wasteland our opponent off of white mana. That's their removal colour. I'm down with that. And then we have an instant speed Containment Priest, and then we can play the Warren Warleader. Containment Priest attacks will trigger our Warleader. We're getting somewhere then. Another Tundra. Prismatic Ending. Let's get a threat. Losing our Chrome Mox like that is certainly annoying. Bash. So if we'd have played the Warleader, they might not have gone after our Mox like that. Flage, yeah. I think this is a turn we have to draw a white mana source. Otherwise our opponent is too far ahead. We did not. We drew an Ancient Tomb. This is probably lights out. They play the Flage a strong amount of the time this turn. And then once they start turning that bad boy sideways, it is very much Flavor Town for Flavor Flage. I didn't go for it. Somehow that's scarier. Well, we get to cast this with Offspring at least. Just means they pick up one for free with their Flage. Yeah, they're probably not playing their Flage just so they can have it as a removal spell straight away. Consigned to Memory. No Offspring for us. Sending the Flage, going upstairs with the Helix, I'm sure. Not great. Can we possibly draw here? We're going to cast this with Offspring. You only get to Offspring once, there's no point trying to do it multiple times. Pump a creature. Pump a creature. Make a 1/1. If our creatures are 7/7, they probably don't trade, but I don't mind them trading here. Right, just going to take out the 3/3 and take 6. Okay, so we have to block with our Warren Warleader here. I was really hoping they go for the trade there. I don't believe they need to plow. They just attack, shoot our Warren Warleader for 3, the little one. Then we have to block with the big one. And then it all gets very, very bad news for us there. Yep, goodbye little one. Goodbye, big one. Like, we can plough this flage. No, we can't. We haven't got any ploughs. Maybe we are supposed to plough. It's Warren Warleader. If we play this with any... If we play this, our opponent just kills us with the flage. Yeah, we're just very dead there. Maybe we are supposed to have some ploughs instead of these Containment Priests. They don't feel great. And the way we lose this game is just getting flaged right in the heart. Do I want more? I'll take a third one. I don't know if I want 4 ploughs against our opponent's control deck. Oh, we're on the play this time, though. Guide of Souls into something. I hate having double Chrome Mox hands. Okay, we'll go Guide of Souls into Archon of Emeria or Jackrabbit. We'll see how we feel and what we draw and what our opponent's up to. The Archon of Emeria seems like it's going to slow our opponent's roll a fair bit. Force of Will on a Guide of Souls. Okay. I'd like to draw a meaningless white card, please. Well. I drew a meaningless white card. Chuck this Archon of Emeria into play, shall we? I think they're considering Consign to Memory here. Be my guest. Spend that card. Stifle. Sure. We've got another one. Somehow the double Chrome Mox worked out for us. How'd you like them apples, opponent? We've got a Wasteland to back up this Archon of Emeria, which is a horrible experience to play against. In comes the Archon. Let's make a rabbit as jacked as we possibly can. Do you want to play a land? I'm going to Wasteland that immediately. Get out of here, Tundra. Oh, this is going to be a real sick turn, actually. So we play the little host guy. Cycling for a non-basic, I assume. Another Tundra. That's going to come in tapped, I'm afraid. So we'll pump our Archon here. Go attacks. The Jackrabbit will trigger, and we're going to get a bunch of triggers here. Alright. Our opponent is very deceased next turn. GG's from the opponent. Alright, we're doing it with some rabbits here. It's working okay. Let's have a look at our score so far. We are 3-1, so we could put a 4-1 on the board with rabbits. What a world. Alright, let's see if we can do it. Right, we're on the play. We've got some rubbish Chrome Moxes again. I'm still going to keep this though. Maybe we draw an Ancient Tomb. We get to play a turn 2 Warleader. Maybe this is a matchup where we don't need our Swords to Plowshares or our Containment Priest, and those can go into the Chrome Mox. There are some possibilities here. Right. It's our opponent's turn. What flavour of deck are you on? Prismatic Vista is going to be like a slow control deck, or is it going to be like Omnitel? A basic island. Into a Tamiyo. I'm not a big fan of Tamiyo being all up in our business. I think this means you play out this Chrome Mox. Oh, why couldn't you counter that opponent? The fact we've drawn another Chrome Mox means we're probably just going to lose this game. Can I beat a Tamiyo? It's going to be real hard to beat a Tamiyo. I think we hit it now before our opponent gets to Brainstorm. We've got the Chrome Mox to pay for a daze. We just hold back our Mother Runes to protect itself. Yeah, we need to draw an Ancient Tomb like now. I have to suspect our opponent is on like a somewhat slower deck with Prismatic Vistas and stuff in. Another island. Are we mono blue? I guess it's possible. Disruptor Flute. Well, yeah. We've drawn 3 Chrome Moxes. We lose the game. I think that's how this is going to pan out. We get a better idea of what our opponent's doing. A Wasteland. A Tamiyo. Well, let's try this Disruptor Flute. Let's see if it resolves, and then we can work out what we're doing. What's the backside called? Seasoned Scholar. We got Force of Will out of it. That's something. Like, we can name the backside of Tamiyo, which might be annoying for our opponent. The one ring that we can't cast. Oh, dear. Yeah, we've really got nothing going on here. Now, instead of drawing white cards to put in our Chrome Mox, we've just drawn more Chrome Moxes and another artifact. Has the option to flip the Tamiyo this turn. If they attack, they make a clue, they crack the clue. And lo and behold, we're in the dirt. Wastelands. Alright. Yep, so they're cracking the clue. So they're going to flip Tamiyo. They're going to plus it. And I don't really know how we're going to do better than this. We can't press to the Tamiyo with the Mother Runes because Mother Runes won't have enough power. We draw a removal spell. There's no point even putting this into anything. We're just doing nothing. I think we've found the flaw of our deck, which is it does nothing. Can't even give our opponent anything resembling a game here, which is a shame. I didn't minus the Tamiyo to go and get back something exciting. But why do they need to do that, right? They can just get back everything from their library. a plains. Okay. Go on, please counter this. Alright, let's have a Warleader. I imagine our opponent is very much on counter spells rather than removal if they're on mono blue. But why would they have Prismatic Vista if they're mono blue? Just to make their brainstorms better? I think we attack Tamio here. We get Rabbit for this turn. So next turn we get another Rabbit. Actually, this one will hit Tamio, right? Because it doesn't attack, it comes into play, taps and attacking. You see, like, some sort of flash threat? No. Okay. So saying there's a chance. Dress down. It's kind of a weird timing on that one. Are we looking at mono blue Dreadnought? I guess it could be blue-white Dreadnought, and they just haven't shown us the white, and that would explain the Prismatic Vista to go and get the other colour. Alright, it's all making sense now. Alright, so we're getting a Null Drifter smashed down against us. Null Drifter being colourless means that we can't try and push damage through it either. Alright, we've got many angles ruining our day here. And now they have white mana, they can also fire off a Plow. Daze is certainly a thing I'm having to respect here. Let's fire this in pre-combat in case we draw something to get this Null Drifter out of the way. There is a Tundra. A Doorkeeper Thrall. This stops the Wandering from doing anything when it enters. Still get a card though. I'm going to play this so we have something to sacrifice to the Null Drifter. We'll attack Tamio with these two. We will pump our creatures. Why are we attacking with a Rabbit? The other Rabbit? That's a good question. They're just going to block it with a Doorkeeper Thrall. Or the Null Drifter, that's fine. Okay. Maybe they think we have something for this. And they've got the fear. So how much is this to pop? It is 7. Okay. We're going to lose this one because our opponent's going to draw half our library. And I don't think we're beating that. There's no way that we can get through that with our Mother Runes. If we give our little guy protection, then they just block it with a Null Drifter. Why are you not just drawing your whole library? Just do that. What are you looking for? You can draw 20 cards. Do that. Unless they're getting greedy and want to keep their Tamio around. Wild. Right, let's try and keep our creature alive. How is this better than drawing 20 cards? Like, they can draw 20 cards afterwards, but they might as well draw the cards first, because then they have the most information to work with. I can't imagine not drawing 20 cards when I have the choice to draw 20 cards. Okay, so we get to sacrifice our Chrome Mox. That does nothing here anyway. Can I draw some cards? I can. Eiganjo isn't the worst here. I quite like to draw cards that are better than just not the worst though. Now our opponent's going to Tamio. They're going to draw less cards because they've taken more cards up their deck already. Fetch lands and ponderings. Do I want to play through this Tamio emblem? I think the answer is no. Our opponent didn't do it last time when they could have, but they did it this time, so it was worth waiting to see if that was a thing. So I would like to have Path to Exile. That seems pretty good here. I think Archon of Emeria is an interesting one because our opponent cannot do like cantrip chains. And they also can't do Stifle plus Dreadnought if we have an Archon of Emeria in play. So I'm down for that. Containment Priest doesn't really do anything here. So that can go. And that leaves us looking for another 2 cards to find. Mother of Runes is okay. It's probably the Disruptor Flute, isn't it? Okay, we're on the play. We've got a bunch of rabbits in our deck. Let's get to it. This does not have any mana, so let's mulligan. Alright, we have some white mana. We have a curve. Do you believe it? I think we're going to get rid of this Solitude. Just keep the clean removal. Instead of because the Solitude is likely to be a pitch removal spell looking at our hand right now. Yes, we do get a bit of energy from doing that, but we don't necessarily have the cards to pitch, which is something I'm finding regularly here. But that last game was just absolutely ruined as soon as we drew that third Chrome Mox. Right, Cavern of Souls. Do we want a Cavern of Souls? We did not draw a Cavern of Souls. Sure. So now we're looking at playing around Daze using our Ancient Tomb here. We lost our Guide of Souls to our opponent's Plow. Force of Will on our little rabbit friend. He's going to hit us? They are going to hit us. And a Ponder. So we could Wasteland our opponent back, but then what are we doing? Our deck needs to be playing 3 and 4 drops. Going down to 1 land probably doesn't favour us because our opponent's got cheaper spells that do more. I'm going to play the Wasteland out. If our opponent misses a land drop, then maybe we Wasteland, but even that doesn't feel great because I guess our probably on no land is pretty good. Right, there is a Tamio. There's a Wasteland. Alright, I will plow this Tamio. I don't want to have to deal with that. You want to force that? Be my guest. We'll play the spell that we have that does things. Our opponent doesn't seem to want to Wasteland our Wasteland. Now they do. Okay. Another Wasteland. Okay. Well, we have a threat in play. Our opponent doesn't. If nothing changes from this position, we win the game. Looks like things are about to start changing. So our opponent's cast a Brainstorm. We have a Plow. We have a Solitude. We're not going to lose to a creature in the near future. But their creatures are quite large. So if we are Solituding them or Plowing them, we're probably losing the game. Because we're not going to have the aggro to follow up. If we could draw an Ancient Tomb here and deploy our Harvestrite Host, that would be good. Alternatively, we can draw nothing. It's always a fun one, isn't it, to draw absolutely nothing. No end of turn enabler. So our opponent wanted to draw the other card on top of the ponder. Jacked Rabbit. That does not do anything just yet. Brainstorm with a fetch land. Not bad. The hand can't be that bad if they didn't shuffle away after that ponder. So I left them on top and then they didn't shuffle. And then they drew the next card on the following turn. So they can't be asking for too much more help with that hand. A Dress Down. Okay. Our opponent is going for a creature this turn. So we're going to make them gain a load of life. And then all of our aggro work is just reset. And our opponent just resets the game with a bunch of land. And we have no land. It's just going to be the Null Drifter. Yep, that's the worst of the two because that gives them more cards. Yikes. Not a fan of the things that are happening to us. Let's see if we can remove this Null Drifter with a plow. Right, everyone gets plowed. I don't think we're particularly favoured here, but... Alright, an Ancient Tomb. Let's play a Jacked Rabbit. This is into a daze, but we need to just get something going. Alright, so we've got a 2-3. Next turn we can play the Harvestrite Host. That'll draw us a card when our Jacked Rabbit attacks. Because we'll put 2 tokens in, and that'll trigger it again. Plow? Yeah, there's a plow. No more Jacked Rabbit. Sure. Veneer is a weird choice to have there. Oh, they didn't Wasteland us. In that case, I'm going to play my 3-drop. While the game's good, it's interesting that it triggers itself. So the 3-mana 3/3 that pumps your other creature the turn it comes in. That's not too shabby, really. Decent rate. They certainly don't make uncommons like this back in the day, that's for sure. Alright, goodbye Ancient Tomb. I enjoyed that little bit of time where we had mana. That was fun. That 2-turn bit where we actually could cast our spells. Can't cast non-creature, so this won't matter. Cast a spell if no mana was spent to cast it. So this will stop our Solitude. Alright, Harvestrite Host. Let's get in for the bits. The bits were successfully gone in. I'll play Mother of Runes. Protects against removal, but it's bad for pushing damage against our opponent. Worst case scenario here is our opponent end of turn plays a thing, like the Dress Down or the Doorkeeper Thrall, and then untaps and plays some big monsters. Well, that's step 1 of the worst case scenario. I guess they could have had a plow as well. What do you not want to see? Like Dreadnought would be bad. A Null Drifter. Okay, so draw more cards. They're way more likely to be able to protect this Null Drifter than if it was a Dreadnought. But they gain less life when we plow it, so our aggro is still somewhat relevant. Yeah, we're going to take the hit here. Could you imagine if we had lands? What a world to live in. Right, can I get rid of your Null Drifter? Daze is good, Force of Will is good. This doesn't feel like a favourable trade right now. But if we get another land and play the Valley Questcaller, then we get to have a swing for 5 with our Rabbit. And we are the one doing the attacking first, so we are ahead in the race. It doesn't take much to flip it, but we can flip it in our favour even more. We don't get to Solitude anything. So I could block with our Mother of Runes and protect our guy, but we don't need to do that. That just opens us up to a removal spell. I don't need to do that. Our opponent has Hardcast Force of Will mana available, but we're probably not casting any spells because we've been very bad at trying to cast spells. Okay, let's make a guy. Got Force of Will over there. Why didn't we get to pump off of this? Oh, because the Doorkeeper Thrall, of course. Had a moment there. Mystic Sanctuary. What are you putting on top here? A Sword, 2 Plowshares. Yeah. A Dress Down. Intriguing. Very intriguing. Give this creature pro-white. Oh, it still loses it because of the Mother Runes. Of course it does. I thought the layering would work differently, but that was not the case. We had a window there where we could Solitude, but I don't think that's the play here, because if we draw a Soul Land, we get to jam this Warleader, and that is ridiculous amounts of damage we can shove at our opponent. All right, I'll block your 2-2 with my 2-3. My opponent isn't a deck that has like 1 damage removal here and there. Yeah, we got the oops in chat. Okay, I needed that a little bit. I guess we're attacking with our Valley Questcaller. So our Solitude is in a weird spot because we can chuck it in play and just have a threat, but we don't get to Solitude anything. Or we could just hold out for this Warren Warleader. Address down. Does this mean they've got something, or they're just speculating? Because they already have the Doorkeeper Thrall, so they have that covered. What would I like to get rid of here? It's probably the Mystic Sanctuary, so they can't daze it and rebuy a spooky spell. Maybe these Solitudes aren't actually any good here. You can't Solitude away very many of their creatures. That's big. That is a big boy. We could put a Solitude into play right now. Do I want to do that? We put the Solitude in, that eats up the Doorkeeper Thrall. Right, so this won't destroy anything because of the Dress Down and the Doorkeeper Thrall, but it will block because this doesn't have flying. Right, we're finding our little chip shots here and there, but there is a 12/12 Trampler in play. But this means we can draw into a white card and then another Solitude. Oh, I'm keeping the Dress Down around. That's curious. A Jacked Rabbit. So we could play this Jacked Rabbit, or we could hold it to be a white card to go with a Solitude. If we play this Jacked Rabbit, what happens? It's just a 1-2. Next turn we attack for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with the Mother of Runes. No, this doesn't come in tapped and attacking, right? So this is 2 damage, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so we are short if we play the Jacked Rabbit out now. We gain 3 life if we attack next turn, but that's not going to be enough to save us from the Dreadnought. So we want to hold this for if we draw a Solitude. Yep, in comes the big Dreadnought. So we've got Plow, we've got Path to Exile, we've got the Solitudes. We've got a lot of draws here, but we need one. Witch Enchanter. If we had more mana, you would definitely do enough work for us. We can soak up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of this. And that means we're playing the Jacked Rabbit and blocking with everything. So this will be a 2-3. So that's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage. We can soak up all of the damage, which means we can draw into a Ancient Tomb to then Witch Enchanter. Now obviously our opponent is going to cast something here. Okay, so we've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We prevent 9 of this damage. Now, as a mathematician, somebody might argue that 12 minus 9 is 3. And I believe that is the case. And our opponent is going to just smash our face with this giant shrimp. Oh, we tried so hard. Just soaks up 5 damage on its own. And they trample over for Exactsies here. Oh, that's real rough. Our opponent did help us out a little bit by giving us a free creature. Alright, so we finished with a 3-2, which is fine. But if you look, we split so many games along the way. I think that last one, we're a bit unlucky that we just drew absolutely nothing in game 1. And we got kind of mana screwed in game 2 for a while as well. So not ideal. Let's talk about the list. So clearly the question is, how good are all these little like rabbit-y type stuff? A 2-mana 2/3 Lord is decent. Like that is definitely about sort of power level that something needs to be in Legacy, provided the things you're pumping are worth pumping. Now, are rabbits good enough to pump? Jacked Rabbit is quite underwhelming. So if we're paying like 3 mana, we get a 2/3 that makes some guys when it attacks. But if we don't have one of our other creatures like a Harvestrite Host or a Valley Questcaller, that's pretty underwhelming. Like, yeah, we can get the Warleader to pump it as well, but this feels like it's a creature that is only good if we have other creatures. Because the rate on it isn't really Legacy rate-wise, and it needs some synergies to work. So we could just play a good creature. Why not just play a good creature on its own that's good on rate? Because this is kind of similar to an Archon of Emeria on rate. Archon of Emeria has evasion, and it has a really useful ability stable to it. We lose the synergy and the ability to keep going wide and generating card advantage, but that wasn't really a thing that this Jackrabbit did very often. So maybe we could just play a better creature. Harvestrite Host, this was fine. The fact that it has draw a card written on it means it certainly gets more of a pass than some of the other creatures in this deck, I think. Being able to draw some cards did come up a fair few times. So like that synergy is probably worth tapping into. The Warleader, so this is a format where Wasteland and Days exist. And here we are trying to throw out 4-mana spells. That's a big ask. Now don't get me wrong, it's pretty good once it's in play. But if you're paying 4 mana for a creature like 2 white, you need something that is really strong on rate. And this is probably fine, but it kind of fits in with like the Hero of Bladehold type cards where they're fine. The fact that you get to do something the turn this comes in if you've got another creature is good. But one of the problems I have with this deck is the curve on it. We need to have something to ramp out because we're not really playing very much early doors stuff. So maybe we play like a Jackrabbit as a 1-mana 1/2 or a Valley Questcaller on turn 1. Maybe if we're lucky, we get to spend all of our resources to make a 3-mana 3/3. Or maybe we make the Jackrabbit as a 3-mana 2/3. And that's kind of what we're looking to do to start the game with. And that is certainly below the power level of Legacy, in my opinion. And as much as I like these synergies, it does feel like if we were just playing good cards, we'd be in a better spot. If you want to do the whole, let's go wide with Jackrabbit, just play Guide of Souls and Ocelot Pride. That's just better. It goes wider, gives you a nice little buffer of life, gives you evasion because the Guide of Souls gets your creatures to fly. Your creatures are a cheaper rate, so instead of having to like pitch something to a Chrome Mox to make this guy, we can just go, okay, turn 1 we'll play Guide of Souls, turn 2 Ocelot Pride. You know, we're making guys, we're making money, we're having a wonderful time, and that even leaves us with a spare 1 mana on turn 2 that we can use for removal, or a Surveil land, or whatever, right? Or a second Ocelot, or a second Guide of Souls, and all of a sudden we're absolutely kicking the gas. And I don't think the aggressive nature of our deck was really good enough here. Now, you know, we certainly got there sometimes, and we did the whole rabbity thing, but I just don't understand why we're playing this over just other white creatures that are better on rate. Especially when, you know, they're printing things like Guide of Souls and Ocelot Pride. That's our little lowball thing, and then maybe we can find some like good middle and higher end stuff for like our 2 to 4 drops if we want them. Like if you're a really aggressive deck and you've got something like Palace Jailer as your top end, like that's probably going to be better than Warren Warleader a lot of the time, because you just get to remove their blocker, get the Monarchs to get some extra cards, and you're just having a good time at that point. I prefer and enjoy synergy decks more than just good stuff piles, but I am realistic and pragmatic when it comes to evaluating how strong they necessarily are. And I think the synergies here aren't really worth tapping into. That being said, I've got something else somewhere on the back burner that's got some synergy stuff a bit like this going on. Using the fun stuff from Bloomburrow, and I haven't been able to get a version that works good enough yet. But I'm going to keep giving it a crack and see if that works out with a little bit of these sort of kindred synergies. But this is a no from me. We did go 3-2, which I feel is about fair for this deck. I feel you can probably spike quite high and, you know, get a 5-0 with the league if you play this enough times. But on average, you're probably going to come away with like a 3-2. Like we're running good white cards. You know, we got Swords to Plowshares, excellent. Solitude, excellent card. We got the One Ring, we got Wasteland. You know, we're playing a bunch of good cards, and then we've just got this package of like 16 cards that we've sort of chucked in. Like Guide of Souls and Mother Runes are fine here. It's just sort of these things could be other stuff, and they'd be fine. Like the Valley Questcaller is good on rate. I can't deny that for what it is. But we do need to be leveraging this synergy more if we want it to work. So that's all I've got for you on this one. It was a fun experiment. I think I would quite like to have some more mana, maybe less Chrome Moxes. Is that sacrilegious? I don't know. It just felt like if we drew 2 Chrome Moxes when we've already got Solitudes in our deck that we're trying to use, we end up so far down on cards that our like individual threats have to just go uncontested. And if our opponent contests them after we're pitching cards, then we got nothing. So I'm not really convinced entirely by the makeup of this deck. I think the Perez decks felt a little bit better. Those decks also ran Urza's Saga, so they had more land drops. Probably wouldn't hurt us to have some more land drops. And Urza's Saga is probably a better threat than, you know, pretty much all of our threats. It's a little bit slower, but, you know, there's no denying that Urza's Saga is a good card. And sort of that version of this deck just feels like it's probably stronger, but I do love the little rabbits. And say what you like about Bloomburrow, I love the flavour and I love the art of this set. And I'm happy to play some somewhat questionable cards in some of these decks in order to try and enjoy that a little bit more. And, you know, this is a deck that a few people I've been messing around with. Occasionally you'll see the Rabbits deck pop up here and there. I've not really seen it do, you know, like big challenge runs or anything like that, but it is like taking down the occasional league and the occasional paper tournament, like small ones. It's a fun F&M deck, basically, if you want to play it. And what is the point of Magic the Gathering if you're not trying to enjoy yourself? But if you want to optimize this and be super competitive, then I think you need to probably gut a lot of the synergy stuff and just play like a Guide of Souls white deck with some like good on-rate stuff in these sorts of slots. Probably go up to another Solitude as well. Containment Priest, probably don't need these in the main deck. I understand why they're there, though, because you've got lots of Nadu decks at the moment. You've got Cradle Control decks. So, you know, being able to hit Green Sun Zenith, Chord of Calling, Reanimate. There's quite a lot of stuff that Containment Priest does hit. So if you're going to have a sideboard card in your main, this isn't the worst one in the world. And sometimes it's Ambush Viper, and that's fine too, right? Sideboard-wise, yeah, we had the tools we wanted. Necro was always going to be a difficult matchup. I think maybe you want some more Deafening Silence to help that Necro matchup. If we've got all these Containment Priests, like 4 is a lot of Containment Priests. Maybe we're just supposed to have less Containment Priests and another Deafening Silence. That would probably make sense to me too. But yeah, that's us done for today. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to support me financially, I have a Patreon. I now have a £1 a month tier on my YouTube. Just say thank you if you want to jump in and help me with that. I always appreciate everything that you lovely people do just to watch my content. And if you want to help me more, that's even better too. But just keep playing Legacy, keep watching Legacy, and thank you so much. Alright, goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.